My dear friends gathered with me in this beautiful house our God gives us for prayer here at Holy Trinity, and my dear friends gathered in the domestic church that is your home, in the midst of a presidential campaign, tonight's gospel, even more than it would be anyway, is, if you'll pardon the expression, a real hot potato. Jesus says, repay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God. This answer of the Lord to the cynical question of his would-be entrappers does not solve the issue. Jesus neither offers any basis for a theory of politics, nor answers the question of what belongs to Caesar and what belongs to God. If we are disappointed with his evasive answer, perhaps we are looking for what the Lord cannot give, for what any honest person would refuse to give. A simple solution, yes or no, to a complex problem. Indeed, the mature Christian understands that Jesus left no textbook providing solutions to every dilemma or yes or no to every question. Rather, he left his word and example, and in these do we find our blueprint for living. And he left something else, a spirit-filled teaching authority to guide the personal conscience decision of each of his followers in the solving of the problem of the claims of God and Caesar. A teaching authority which functions best when it humbly acknowledges that not only bishops, but also pastors, theologians, and God's holy and faithful people make, each in their own way, a contribution in the search for truth. To be church is, among other things, to take on the task of continually defining, in light of the gospel, what needs to be given to God and to Caesar. Thus it is that God's people must speak a commitment to the poor when the state has difficulty seeing, be a voice for the voiceless when the state has difficulty hearing, be a force for peace when the state relies too often and too quickly on words of threat and weapons of war. What then does tonight's gospel offer to you and to me? In a word, a challenge to ask continuously of our consciences, what does it mean, here and now, to be legal and be for Caesar? What does it mean, here and now, to be loving and be for God? Case in point, Christians, you and I, continue to pay taxes which fund abortions, pay for federal executions, and finance arms, even nuclear arms. None of these, quite obviously, are pro-life. None of these reflect the redeeming activity of the Lord of the gospel. None provides any lasting solution to the personal trauma of unwanted pregnancy, or violent crime, or the inability of world leaders to make agreements which seek to eradicate injustice, poverty, and hunger, and thereby creating the conditions for real peace. What does it mean, here and now, to be legal and be for Caesar? What does it mean, here and now, to be loving and be for God? My dear sisters and brothers in faith, here and at home, on this Mission Sunday, when we are especially conscious of the global embrace of the gospel, the word of our God gives us much to ponder and pray over. Humbled before that word, how conscious we are of our need for the strength of the Holy Eucharist. St. Augustine, I think, sums up the word's challenge very well. He writes, "Faith tells us that God is. Love tells us that God is good. And hope tells us that God will work his will. And hope has two lovely daughters. Anger, that things are not what they ought to be. And courage, to make them what they must be. May all of us live," he goes on, "out of that kind of hope." I close with the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it political? Vanity asks, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right?" There comes a time when one must take a position that's neither safe, nor political, nor popular, but he must make it because his conscience tells him that it is right.